Well, two part-time Mammoth Lakes residents were arrested in Huntington Beach after shots were fired and fights occurred early last Friday morning at a party in Mammoth Lakes. Now, a press release from the Mammoth Lakes Police Department said Mammoth police officers responded to a report of shots fired at 167 Joaquin Road at 1:40 a.m. last Friday. Now, earlier in the evening, officers responded to multiple reports of fights at that location where a large party was occurring. Each time, the suspects fled prior to the officers' arrival. On the third call for service, multiple callers reported gunshots. One of the callers was outside on the balcony at 167 Joaquin Road when he saw a truck drive up and stop. The press release says he recognized it as belonging to some of the combatants from the earlier fights. He went inside and immediately called 911. Now, during that call, gunshots rang out. The number of shots reported varied, but appeared to be between 3 and 5. Two gunshots could be clearly heard in the background of the recorded 911 call. Now, upon arrival, Mammoth Lakes Police Department officers first determined that there were no victims from the gunfire and then began processing the scene. Spent casings were located and recovered as evidence. Police officers interviewed witnesses and identified two possible suspects. Now, with the assistance of personnel from the Mono County Sheriff's Department, arrest warrants were obtained for the two suspects and a search warrant was obtained for their vehicle. Members of the Mono County Search and Rescue Team also assisted in a grid search for additional evidence. Now, working with the Mammoth Lakes Police Department, Huntington Beach police officers located and secured the suspect vehicle and later took both suspects into custody in Huntington Beach. The gun has also been recovered. Press release states that Travis Jeremy Burns, age 23, of Mammoth Lakes and Huntington Beach, as well as Casey Aaron Crandall, age 25, of Mammoth Lakes and Costa Mesa, were both arrested pursuant to the warrants. Their bail amounts were each set at $50,000. Now, the Mammoth Lakes Police Department would like to thank many agencies for their assistance, including Mono County Sheriff's Department, Mono County Search and Rescue Team, Mammoth Mountain Security, CHP Bishop Area Communications Center, and the Huntington Beach Police Department. Press release notes this interagency cooperation was instrumental in quickly identifying, locating, and safely taking the suspects into custody. Well, two Owens Valley residents were arrested on various charges last Wednesday. A Bishop Police Department press release states that on March 30th at approximately 6:30 p.m., units from the Bishop Police Department conducted a probation search at a residence located in the 300 block of Clark Street. Now, at that residence, Bishop police officers made contact with Alberto Verdugo Flores, 32-year-old Bishop residence. Press release states that during the search of his residence, officers located a large amount of stolen property connected to a series of burglaries in the Bishop area. As a result of the investigation, Flores was placed under arrest and transported to the Inyo County Jail in Independence, charged with possession of stolen property over $900, violation of probation, and possession of a controlled substance. Bishop police officers also contacted Kevin Douglas Elliott, a 26-year-old Big Pine resident who was inside the house. Elliott was found to be in possession of approximately a ½ ounce of methamphetamine. Elliott was placed under arrest and transported to the Inyo County Jail, charged with possession of a controlled substance for sales and possession of controlled substance paraphernalia. That press release does say that anyone with additional information encouraged to contact the Bishop Police Department at 760-873-5866. And the Bishop Police Department will join a national campaign to end distracted driving. Press release notes distracted driving is such an important safety issue that April is recognized as National Distracted Driving Awareness Month. Now, in California, police, sheriff, and CHP officials are joining the Office of Traffic Safety, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, and the National Transportation Safety Board, as well as law enforcement throughout the country, working together to focus on education as well as enforcement. Now, the purpose of the campaign is to raise awareness about the dangers of distracted driving in an attempt to change behavior and save lives, not just in this month of April, but obviously year-round. Bishop Police Department will join statewide enforcement campaigns on April 7th and the 20th. zero tolerance days when all agencies will be especially vigilant for distracted drivers. Now, although the purpose of the campaign is not to write as many citations as possible, sometimes citations, the press release notes, are necessary for drivers to understand the importance of focusing on their driving. Distracted driving is any activity that could divert a person's attention away from the primary task of driving. All distractions endanger driver, passenger, as well as bystander safety. Press release describes those types of distractions, including texting, using a cell phone or smartphone, eating and drinking, talking to passengers, grooming, reading, including maps, using a navigation system, watching a video, adjusting a radio, CD player, or MP3 player. But the press release notes, because text messaging requires visual, manual, and cognitive attention from the driver, it is by far the most alarming distraction. Let's all be careful out there. Well, reports of bees swarming in our local area have been on the increase during the last few weeks. Press release from the Inyo and Mono County Agricultural Department notes that swarming activity is typical during this time of year as a portion of a beehive splits and looks for a suitable new home. Swarms are most likely to occur during the warmer hours of the spring and early summer. Now, although these swarms may seem disturbing, press release notes it is key to note that during swarming activities, the bees have no hive to defend, are in the most docile stage of colony development. Now, it is important to not disturb the swarm if possible and to avoid the area until the swarm moves, especially if one is allergic to bee stings. In almost every instance, the swarm will leave the area as scout bees return and communicate to the swarm where they have discovered good areas to build a hive. Oh, those bees. These swarms are typically wild European honeybees, the same species that are used most by commercial beekeepers. For many reasons, European honeybee populations have been in decline over the past several years. The insects provide many beneficial activities, including producing honey and pollinating many of our food crops and native plants. Now, if you have any questions regarding bee swarms, again, feel free to contact the Inyo Mono Agricultural Commissioner's Office. Phone number there is 760-873-7860. Well, Deb Murphy filed a story on last Thursday's Standing Committee meeting, noting there were the usual reports, agreements that staff would discuss ongoing issues that were beyond the purview of either the committee or the long-term water agreement. Now, some action item highlights. Los Angeles and Inyo County representatives on the committee agreed to new language that conforms to the protocol established by the long-term water agreement on the issue of which entity the standing committee or the technical group makes decisions on reasonable reductions in irrigation and mitigation project water this coming runoff year. Now, that agreement puts the authority squarely on the standing committee's shoulders once the tech group develops a plan if reductions are needed. Los Angeles had proposed that the committee approve a plan in advance of the plan's development. The long-term water agreement won. Now, according to the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, runoff predictions currently hover about 70% on average in the eastern Sierra. Inyo County's efforts to retain a portion of the water savings on the Owens Lake dust mitigation continued to run into a legal brick wall. Chair Felipe Fuentes repeated his assertion that committee had no authority to make those decisions, and the city's charter supersedes the long-term water agreement regarding water rights. Assistant City Attorney Julie Riley maintained the, quote, Owens Lake action comes under the health and safety codes, end quote, and is excluded from the agreement and stipulation and order. Inyo Supervisor Matt Kingsley pointed out that the county wasn't asking for new water, just asking for what should have been there all along, referring to underallocated mitigation projects and irrigation reductions. Both Kingsley and Supervisor Rick Pucci asked for further discussion. Senior Assistant General Manager Martin Adams conceded that staff could talk about it. Deb Murphy's full story is on our website, sierrawave.net. We'll be back with more news.